Just join us if you feel like it. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Good morning, everybody, and a Merry Christmas to you. Some kind soul up there, I left my mask in the back. Could you bring it up to me, right next to the old water bottle? Sorry. Thank you. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavani yuge yuge. Shri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, when goodness grows weak, when evil increases, I make myself a body. In every age I come back to destroy the sin of the sinner, to destroy the sin of the sinner, to deliver the holy, and to establish righteousness. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Good morning and Merry Christmas to you all. It's the Om, peace, peace, peace is sort of the message of Christmas. It's just what we really need right now. In the Gospel of Luke, we are told about the shepherds who went up to they're watching their flocks by night. And then suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared before them. And you can imagine you're a shepherd out here and all of a sudden, oh God. And the angel says, fear not, for I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be for all people. And that message inspired the English 15th century Christmas carol, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. If y'all feel like joining me with that refrain, go right ahead. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when we have gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. That is what I was thinking about for Christmas. Because really the message of Christmas is that of comfort and joy. And it's more than just the message of Christmas. It's really the message of the incarnation. When an incarnation comes down to earth, that is what the incarnation brings us, comfort and joy. That is the very nature of the incarnation. And it's sort of the blessing, this comfort and joy is the blessing that we experience when we come into the orbit of grace that comes with the avatar. You know, all of us in here right now, even you out there, and out there in the land of something else apart from this temple, we've all come into the orbit of the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sarda Devi. This temple is part of the Vedanta Society of Southern California, and we're part of the Ramakrishna order. And Ramakrishna was the 19th century saint. He and Sarda Devi were born 19th century Bengal in little small villages. And this temple itself was founded by Swami Prabhavananda. Swami Vivekananda, first of all, brought the message of Sri Ramakrishna, his teacher, to this country in 1893. And because of that, we have Vedanta societies everywhere and throughout the world. And this temple was founded by Swami Prabhavananda, who was a disciple of Swami Brahmananda Maharaj, the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna. So whether you've come here willingly or unwillingly, or none or unknown, we've all come in that sort of orbit of grace. And we are kind of being nurtured by that grace that comes with an incarnation. And this is sort of the comfort. I was interested that the message of the angel was joy, and then they changed it in the 15th century to comfort and joy. Well, you know, for us, it's the comfort that comes with the incarnation. It's like, oh, okay, this is why I was born. This is why I have a body. This is the goal of life. The goal of life is to realize God. The goal of life is to realize that divinity within our hearts. That's the comfort. We know why we're here. This is why we're here. And joy, because that's our real nature. Our real nature is that of joy. Joy automatically comes to us when our ignorance is removed. And that kind of spontaneous joy is really the hallmark of genuine spirituality. That sort of spontaneous, open-hearted joy. Not that frivolous, like nervous laughter, but that joy which you find in genuinely spiritual people. Now, we're so fortunate. Christmas, this is December's the month of Christmas, kind of a double header. We also have the birthday of Sri Sarda Devi. So it's a great month of celebration now. So at this time we celebrate the birth of Jesus. It's such a sweet thing because Christmas is not just about Santa Claus or the Amazon delivery man getting here on time. It's not just about that. It's about the joy and the celebration that comes along with an incarnation of God. The incarnation of God coming down to earth and giving us that grace. And this is what we feel when the Lord assumes human form. That grace that comes when an incarnation of God looks like us, talks like us, acts like us, but a whole lot better. and really it seems just like us. But despite all these ordinary appearances, he has within himself that power of the infinite divinity within himself, locked in his small human frame. This Brahman, or what we call Satchidananda, infinite existence, knowledge, and joy, infinite being, infinite knowledge, infinite consciousness, not conscious of this or that, but that infinite consciousness and infinite joy is the very nature of Brahman, and it's the very nature of an incarnation of God. And they're brought into looks to be what it's like an ordinary human form, but it's not. Krishna reminds us in that section I read from the Bhagavad Gita that the incarnation of God comes down when we need him, when goodness grows weak, when evil increases. Well, that sounds about right. Yeah, check. I think we got that covered right now. It's like, so they to bring us comfort and joy because they bring us to our real home. And this is our real home, our spiritual home. Their advent, their birth, brings the world comfort and joy. And it's if we're ready, and the gift that they bring us, if we're ready for it, if we really want it. It's comfort because the only thing that's going to solve our problems right now is divine knowledge and divine love. Nothing else is going to fix anything. That's it. It's the only solution we can have. And it's joy because it's the nature of who the incarnation is. And it's actually our real nature. They come to remind us of that, to remind us of our real nature as being joy itself. Ramakrishna said that God sports in infinite various ways. And that sport is what they call Leela in Sanskrit, that play of God on earth when he appears and goes in and out, does all these various things on the world. And God sports as God, as man, and he sports as the universe itself. He said, God descends to earth in human form as the avatar. He said to teach people love and devotion. He said one can take devotion and love through the incarnation. He said, infinite are the ways God's play. He said, but what I need, basically what we need, is what he's implying. What we need. What I really need, he said, is love and devotion. Why? It's kind of hard to really love a relationship with an infinite divine existence. It's there, but what's the connection? Infinite consciousness. There's a lot of consciousness. It's like, that's great. What do I do with it? How is it going to directly help me when I'm dealing with all these crises, when I'm dealing with life? And incarnation gives us very visual, visceral, daily acts that we can kind of check. This is how we're supposed to act. This is how we should relate to the world. They come to teach us love. And when we can have that kind of a relationship, it makes it so much easier. We can have someone we can understand and relate to. And that is really what we see when we talk about divine love. That's really what we see in the incarnation of Jesus. He was, above all, a teacher of love and a teacher of prayer as a means to attain that love, a very easy way to define, just opening your saying, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is so hard for me. Very easy prayer, very easy spiritual practice to do, very natural. He also taught prayer as a means to that love. And he embodied this really, truly fearless teaching of others. He went out of his way to address the people who were sort of outside the arena of where spirituality was. He taught the poor. He taught women, really not okay at the time. You weren't even supposed to speak to women in public, which he did fearlessly. He really children in the most sweet, tender, his absolute equals, made them his disciples just like the men. And to children, he had this incredible love and tenderness, this really going out of his way to show love. He taught those who were outside the fold of his own religion, Samaritans, which he traditionally despised, and he accepted them as his own disciples, Samaritans. And in fact, he went everywhere because religion at the time had become so encased in a smug orthodoxy that others were excluded from it. And he opened up the doors for everyone. And when we think of Jesus, we think of the ultimate sacrifice that he made out of nothing but love. As we read in John, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for others. Out of love. But at Christmas, we're shown just a tender little baby. We're not thinking about the sacrifice. We're just seeing the tender little baby who's lying in a manger with his mother Mary and his father Joseph and the shepherds and all the animals around, because there was no room at the inn. And that's good. It's a good thing. I was thinking about that. It's like, cool, no room at the inn. You know why? There's no room at the inn because we have here. That's where they're really supposed to be. Because the real inn is the inn within our hearts. That's the greatest inn of all. Swami Vivekananda said the greatest temple of God lies within the human heart. And the same thing with Jesus. This is where the inn is supposed to be, not in some nice place of, B&B and a latte in the morning. This is where it has to be, in the heart. The greatest manger of them all, right here. And Christmas reminds us of that. So when we allow, when we can turn down the external noise, which at this time of year is really hard. It's like, have you been standing in the line at CVS and you have to hear all these, Santa baby again and again? Oh, God is just Santa baby and Holly Jolly Christmas and the Chipmunk song. I mean, what's wrong with people? Or you're stuck on hold. You're on the hold purgatory and you have to hear those things all the time. It's like, no, it's not fair. So, okay. We turn down the okay. That's not what Christmas is. And then we have to turn down the internal noise because we don't want to go into gift purgatory. It's like where we feel like, oh my God, do something. Oh my God, I've got to do something because Christmas is coming and I haven't. And it's stressed out and think, oh, I've got to get a present. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. Have this. It's like, no. You don't really have to do that unless we're dealing with a really small child or a really immature adult. We don't have to do that because all anyone really needs, unless their circumstances are seriously otherwise, is to let people know that we really love them, that we really value them, that we're so grateful. We're so grateful that they're in our lives, and how much we've grown and benefited from them. That's really all we have to do. I know we want to give gifts, we want to show people how much we love them or value them and how important they are to our lives. But we can't sort of allow that to kidnap the real meaning of Christmas, which is that to really be within our hearts and to seed in the hearts of others. Just let people know that we're there for them. Maybe all that we need to do is just show our support and solidarity. It's like, hey, you're not alone in this. We're here. We're here. We can. How are you doing? How are you? Hey, what can I do something? Or just a phone call, a visit, a packet of cookies, just to let. We all know it ain't about the things, but it's very easy to fall into the trap of ourselves into that thing where we really lose the what Christmas is all about, which is about the avatar coming to earth and about us realizing our own divinity in our hearts. It's been a tough year, and it may be a rocky, maybe rocky January for all we don't know, but more things isn't going to make it better. But maybe a phone call, maybe more quietness on our part on the inside will make it a lot better for us and for everybody else. A call or a visit can make just a world of difference. In all the TVs that we see now, that's so nice going out and seeing these, just even on Christmas trees, you see the nativities this big. We have not only that little baby Jesus, but we also have the Virgin Mary, who is actually part of the incarnation of Jesus, part and parcel of that incarnation. In the Hindu tradition, an incarnation comes with a feminine counterpart. People have asked, why isn't there a female incarnation? It's like, every incarnation has a feminine counterpart. There's, as Sri Ramakrishna said, two sides of the same coin. With Krishna, we got Radha. With Jesus, we have Mary. With Rama, we have Sita. With Buddha, we have Maya Devi. With Sri Ramakrishna, we have Sarda Devi, the Holy Mother. Two sides of the same. You can't pull off the heads and just leave the tails. You can't remove that. So that's in the Hindu, in the goddess and god and goddess tradition, has an accompanying goddess. Shiva has Kali or Durga. Vishnu has Lakshmi. Brahma has Saraswati. The whole point behind it there is a masculine and a feminine counterpart to life and in the incarnation himself. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna said, fascinating love, he said, the incarnation is of Shakti alone. Shakti is that feminine counterpart, the force of divinity. Because Purusha, or the masculine aspect, is inert, inactive. You can't have anyone, you can't come down to earth unless you have the power of God. You have to have that power to incarnate, power to teach. That is of Shakti alone, he said. So we're really dealing with both sides of the same coin. And it's interesting because in the Abrahamic traditions, this kind of the feminine counterpart has been kind of squashed. So both in Judaism and in Islam, sort of the act has been sort of like kept down, but it keeps popping back up. That's why we see these Marian shrines everywhere. Well, it has to, because truth is never suppressed. It has to come out somewhere. Female saints, female everything. It's really interesting that Sri Ramakrishna was extremely insistent about Holy Mother, that she continue his teachings after he passed away. Or was, he's leave the place. He was preparing for his own death. And he told Holy Mother, you will have to continue. And she said, oh, no, what can I do? I'm only a woman. He said, nothing doing. You will have to do much more. She said, I can't. He said, you have to. In fact, of course, she did. She did. Interestingly, I just read this Bengali reminiscence that had just recently been translated into English of Girish Chandra, who was the famous playwright dramatist and also famous. He said, if I'd known, he said, there isn't a sin I haven't. I knew Sri Ramakrishna was going to be born, I would have done much more. It's like, so, that guy. So when he was only 19 years old, he had a dream of Holy Mother Sarda Devi, in which she appeared to him in a mantra. It's like, he didn't meet her until many, many years later. And when he finally saw her, he was astonished to find out that she was the person who gave a mantra in a dream. She often gave dreams to people, of course they can't remember, or very few remembered, or when they checked on it and they would say, she'd say, does this tally? Is this the same one I gave you? But she was so quiet and shy and self-effacing. Just think that she was just an ordinary housewife who's out there tending the cows and cooking. The point this all is that the incarnation without the feminine power is incomplete. They have to go together. That's why we see think of Our Lady of Guadalupe, think of Fatima, think of Chartres, think of Lourdes. All this is because of this feminine power of God that comes, this tremendous worship of the Virgin Mary. Just as Jesus is kind of, what do I want to say, like the himself as this tiny little baby, Mary kind of cloaked herself with this humility and quietness, but she was really not only the mother of Jesus, she was the mother of the whole world. She was, in fact, and her very birth was predicted by so many generations before. Said, behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, God with us. And the nativity, I find this so interesting, the nativity say, when the angel appears, the angel Gabriel appears to Mary, he says, Hail Mary, the Lord is with thee. And then Saint Bernard, saint, not the dog, not the dog, he's actually a mystic, a 12th century or 11th, 12th century saint. Saint Bernard said, what do you mean the Lord is with thee? The Lord is with everybody at all times. That's the very nature of God. How does this make sense? What he said is, the Lord is particularly and especially with Mary. Why, he said? Because she has made her will one with God's will. Which is so interesting because, okay, Mary, the angel Gabriel said, behold, you're going to conceive a son, and she's going, wait a minute, I am virgin, haven't known a man. And he's going, yeah, well, this is going to happen, therefore you're going to go blah, blah, blah. And she's going, anyone else will go, well, I don't think so. This is going to cause problems for me, believe me. I'm not married, not having, not. And instead, she goes, let it be according to thy word. In other words, thy will be done, which is just what her son said 34 years later. Thy will be done. Only an incarnation can do that. Because our will can never be one with the will of God because we've got this big way. Everything in our mind is mediated through I, me, mine, this big ego that relates to everything according to me, my body, my mind, my understanding process. And if it's like trying to communicate through somebody through a wall. It doesn't happen. We can't understand anything, so we're going through a wall. The ego, it encases us. So we aren't really able to get knowledge or true understanding because we're dealing with this massive ego. With a divine incarnation, it's a thin layer of glass. They can see right through it. They can understand the divine will and be it unto me according to thy word. That's what the value of the incarnation is, to help us put the ego down. So this, let's not lose the place. Mary, of course, had made her will one with God's will. And that's why we have the power with her. She was one with that infinite divine reality. The greatest manifestation, Sri Krishna said, the greatest manifestation is in the incarnation, which is why it's so worth having that sort of relationship, because we can kind of put our finger directly in the socket. It's like that is what spiritual power is. So again, to celebrate the birth of is very much like Mary in that way. She is hid herself in the cloak of simplicity and ordinariness. Holy Mother Sarada Devi was the consort of Ramakrishna, his wife, lived together as brother and sister. She was a very young child, so obviously the marriage was never consummated. They lived together as brother and sister, and she continued his ministry after his death. She saw every being, dogs, cats, probably insects, whether birds, cows, everything. She was kind of in her orbit of love and protection and care, including, of course, human beings of every possible stripe. Her house was a complete madhouse, but she lived there completely, quietly, and tranquilly, doing everything. She never brought attention to herself. She was modest. And she spent her life doing things like daily, ordinary chores. She cooked, she husked paddy, she fed the cows, she cleaned up, and she cooked, she fed them, she took care of them. And she took care of an entire family, which was a zoo in and of itself. Most of them were selfish, completely self-centered. They were argumentative. They were always fighting with each other. They were bickering. She had to mediate the fights. Some were like on the border of obsessed with purity, problem with mental illness. She dealt with it all tranquilly without raising a hair. She did all of her work with complete care and attention, complete concentration, remaining in the highest spiritual consciousness, doing things just like we would do. It's like, oh, I gotta get this out of the way. Oh, I need to do this, but I'll just get it out of the way. Complete care and attention. I'm convinced that if we knew about the life of Mother Mary, it'd be exactly the same thing. That complete care and attention to every detail. Holy Mother lived life completely in the world. No going off anywhere for practice for her, very much in the world. And I think that's one of her great gifts, is to show us what real spiritual life is like. I often think, oh, if it was just time. Oh my God, if I just had a quieter place. Oh my God, if this thing wasn't just on my case all the time. When I have more time, when I have a quieter place, then I'll have a spiritual life. Then I'll really do my spiritual practice. That's when I'll do it. When all these conditions are met, then I'll have my spiritual practice. It's like Holy Mother proved, wherever you go, there you are. It's like, it doesn't change. It's like going to the ocean and waiting for the waves to stop. I'm going to start my spiritual practice when those waves stop. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Life goes on without us. Life goes on. So our spiritual life is where we are right now, doing what we're doing, not later when conditions we think are more propitious. If we were supposed to have a spiritual life there, at that point, that's when we would do it. But it's not our karma. Our karma comes to us, our life asks us to do in and there right now. Our spiritual life is supposed to be now, here, no other time, now. Waves don't stop. Mother, like hours and hours of meditation. When she meditated deeply, she meditated deeply. When she did her worship, and the rest of the time she worked. She just worked. In fact, she really emphasized the necessity and the real value in our spiritual life of work. She said one must do some work. She said through work alone one can remove the bondage of work. She said not by avoiding work, we can't remove the bondage, by doing it. She said one should not be without work even for a moment. Now, when you read that as an American, you think God, one of those overachievers for a moment. But that wasn't really her trip, not her goal. Some people work all the time, constantly, because they can't be quiet. They simply can't be quiet in their heads. They really don't want to deal with the contents in their minds. So they stay busy all the time, whether they're doing something or listening to something or watching something, because they can't bear the quiets inside. They can't deal with it. They're afraid of the content. They think if they lift up the lid, there's going to be a garbage can. So they just stay externalized. No way to live. No way. You can't be afraid of your own mind. But instead, it's like, do all your work with concentration, with care and attention, and that will bring you the highest goal of life. Her meditation was as concentrated as her work. And she really taught us that to both meditate with concentration, and then to do our work with concentration. She said, meditate all the time. Hello. So people will think, well, I'm just going to meditate, but they end up just going into cat space. So when we meditate with our full attention. When we work with our full attention. She really taught us to do every single thing that we do with care, attention, and respect. When she was in the house, and one of the monks was sweeping, and they just took the broom and threw it aside. And she went, "Why are you doing that to that broom? Isn't the broom the household also?" I mean, not only the cats and the dogs and the fish and the beer. It's like, this broom is a member of this household also. It deserves some respect. Won't you need that broom in the future? Put it away where it should be. Like, bang, bang. Here's a great lesson in spiritual life. Just think of Holy Mother in the Bible. Everything deserves its respect. Everything with, it's the attitude, the perfect karma yoga attitude. We often think it's like, I'm going to go out and, I'm going to be Mother Teresa. I'm going to do this and serve that. It's like, just deal with it. See how well you can do that. Maybe you can do something more in life. But if you can't deal with a broom, you're not going to deal with anything else either. Once, if you probably heard this story from me before, but I love it, so you get to hear it again. Once Holy Mother was in her home in the village, and this woman came from Calcutta to her to get some spiritual instruction. And Holy Mother was quite busy. She was cooking and she was cleaning. She was tending to all the guests who would come, plus her own family. She was feeding them, and then she was cleaning up after them and taking care of them. More and more impatient. So finally she came up to Holy Mother and she said, I have come to you for spiritual instruction, but I see you're too busy even to talk to me. And said, have I not been given instruction? Busted. There was a woman who worked, just another one of those Bengali reminiscences that had just been translated. She'd been working as a servant in Mother's house since she was quite young, and by the house, I'm thinking there's not only her, but extended family, which is quite, plus all the monks and all the people around her, so it's basically a large zoo. And she was working in the house, and she said in her reminiscences when she became quite old, she said, Mother did not stop working even as she got old. She never stopped working. She said, if she gave someone some work to do and they didn't do it, she never asked them twice. She just did it herself. She said, I appreciate her divinity then. She said, I regret it to this day. Well, Holy Mother wouldn't regret that. That was probably her point. She wanted people to feel comfortable with her. She didn't want to have everyone go, she wanted everyone to see her literally as Mother. So when she worked with complete concentration. When she meditated with complete concentration. And she was utterly uneducated, but she was the giver of wisdom. She really was the giver of wisdom and knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna said about her, she is Saraswati. The name Sarada is a derivation of Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. He said she is born to bestow knowledge on others. So in her simple, sweet way, she was able to answer questions of people that have plagued humanity since the beginning of time in her own simple, sweet way. Just as Jesus did when he was at the temple in Jerusalem when he was 12 years old. This is what comes with the incarnation, the ability to give light, to give the light of wisdom to others. And both Sarada Devi and Mother Mary hid their divinity by their ordinariness. They just hid themselves. Sri Ramakrishna said she's like a cat hidden in the ashes. You don't realize she's even there. But they both hid themselves through their very ordinariness. And we hide they went out of their way to hide their divinity. We hide our divinity from ourselves through our ignorance. That's the difference. But they go out of their way. We can't even find our divinity sometimes. But they went out of their way to hide their divinity so we could be comfortable with them. So we could approach them without fear, so that we wouldn't feel awe, so we wouldn't feel a sense of separation, so we could just be with them like Mother, without fear, without feeling, oh, I'm not good enough. St. Paul said, perfect love casteth off fear. And Swami Vivekananda said, love knows no fear. He said, it conquers all evil. He said, fear of God is the beginning of religion, but love of God is the end of religion. That is the goal of religion. Now, when the divine appears to us as Mother, we feel safe. We feel protected. We feel comforted. We feel loved. That's the point of Mother. A mother holds us all the time in her arms. When we're a baby and we're being held, we don't think, don't drop me. I'm afraid it's like, you're just okay. We just think we're exactly where we ought to be at all times. This is the way it should be. And that's actually the way we are right now. The Divine Mother is kind of holding us, and we are exactly where we should be right now, being held and comforted and cared for. You know, we just forget it. We forget we're being held. That's the whole problem. When the divine appears to us as a baby, how can there be any fear? How can there be fear of God with this little tiny baby? When we see a baby, we just feel all that, that we just feel that sweetness and love that comes with being a baby. The job of a baby is just to bring out our own tenderness, our own sense of love and protection. It's such a great attitude to have towards the divine. How can there be fear? How can there be awe if you've got a little baby or if you have a quiet little mother? It's so easy to love and identify with the divine in this way, to really have a relationship this way. No awe, no fear, no sense of, I'm not good enough. If you're a mother, you know, your baby's always good enough. And even when you get older, if you start doing things that the mother has to correct, the mother does it not because she hates you. She does it because she wants to bring out the best of you. And that's what the Divine Mother does to us. She wants the best part of us to shine forth, because the worst part of us is the ego. She has to sort of put that, she has to allow that to kind of get cleaned up and go to the back of the bus, so that the best part of us, the part where the ego isn't getting in our own way and everybody else's way, that can shine forth. In the big scheme of things, it's really interesting to think that divine comes with two poor, illiterate women and a baby. Now, these are the type that you never are going to think have any power, have any say, have any anything. They're the bottom of the totem pole as far as power. But they're the ones who bring the light, who bring the spiritual wisdom. The world says babies and women are nothing. They have no power, they have no ability to speak for themselves, no strength. But the world thinks that power is in the world of men, of rulers, of those who have power and money and influence. But the real power is in the hands of the babies. That's where all that power is still coming from. In reality, you know what? They run the show. Swami Swahananda used to always say, in a family, who's the one that has the most power? The baby. The minute the baby cries, all the attention goes there. That's where the power is. And in the Christ incarnation, the baby and the mother who seemed so meek and lowly. But real humility isn't about humiliation. Real humility isn't about self-erasure, It's about putting the ego where it belongs and allowing the divinity within us to shine forth. That's real humility. Power is not in the hands of those who kind of bang their chest and insist how wonderful and strong and powerful they are. That's real weakness. They're the ones who it's like, in a minute they're gone. But that baby and mother have been ruling the world ever since. Real power is the power to give spiritual illumination. Real power is to give light to others, to give real spiritual illumination. That's the greatest power of all. Real power is to enable us to see the divinity within ourselves, and moreover, to see and recognize the divinity in others. That is real power. If we can do anything to increase our own illumination, that's power. To give freedom to others, that's power. That's the message of comfort and joy that we get at Christmas. That remembering who we really are, remembering our divinity, that is real power. That is real comfort and joy. To remember our divinity, to see it within the hearts of others. The best way to celebrate Christmas is to kind of remember that. To remember our own divinity and to see it and to recognize it and to see it within others and react to them that way. Even with the annoying music going into our heads, even with all that's going on now, even with it all, as scary as it can be, as annoying as it can be, to remember that divinity within ourselves. Sri Ramakrishna said, to love an incarnation of God, that is enough. And with that, I'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a very happy and joyful and healthy New Year. Thank you.
Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Hallelujah, oh, the Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Doesn't that make your heart glad? Oh, angels herald Jesus' birth. The Father sent his Son to earth. Such a miracle cannot the worth of his love. Hallelujah, hallelujah. While shepherds watched their flocks by night, they saw a star that was shining so. It pointed to that wondrous sight where that babe was lying. Oh, wise men came to offer gifts, frankincense and myrrh and gold, all the treasures they could carry for the feet of this baby. Oh, in that manger there he lied, Mary singing a lullaby, and dear Joseph standing by, watching over this baby. Oh, angels herald Jesus' birth. The Father sent his Son to earth. Such a miracle can't count the worth of his love. Hallelujah, hallelujah. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, the Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Doesn't that make your heart glad? Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Oh, that was perfect, Jayanti. Did someone go up and get my mask for me? Or it's right there in the back, or could someone just bring one from outside for me? Because I left it up in the choir loft. Thank you, sorry. Meanwhile, I'll make some announcements. Okay, this coming Wednesday, we'll have a reading right here in the temple for Seekers of God at 5 o'clock. I heartily invite you to join us for sing-along Christmas carols on Christmas Eve at 6 o'clock on, thank you so much. Grazie, thank you. Can't go out without this. Okay, that will be Christmas Eve at 6 o'clock here. Christmas Eve is on a Friday, right? Yes. So it will, at 6 o'clock, we'll have our regular arati, followed by sing-along Christmas carols. You're all invited to come. Everyone masked, of course. And all of us in the choir loft will be tested before we walk up here, before we sing. So it should be a nice, safe location. If you don't want to do that, this will also be available online that evening for sing-along Christmas carols, along with Bobby Lesser's famous reading from the Nativity Gospels. And that Saturday, Saturday is Christ Puja here. That will be Christmas Day at 11:30 a.m. with prasad in hand, right there in the front. And Sunday, this is a red letter week, we will have Holy Mother's Puja here at 11 a.m. You're all invited to attend. The puja followed by Homa fire and prasad. Everyone, of course, masked up from here to Kingdom Come. And conclude with a chant. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. And thank you all for coming.